Great Novels for Kids, Chapter Books Every Kid Should Read, Part 2. Next, let's talk about some books that aren't especially funny, but they're very good stories anyway. One of the most famous children's books is by Johanna Spyri, from Switzerland, called Heidi. Heidi is an orphan girl who goes to live with her grandfather in the mountains in the Alps. The English writer Frances Hodgson Burnett wrote another story about an orphan girl, The Secret Garden, another great story, about sick children being healed by time spent in nature. Laura Ingalls Wilder also wrote about girls in nature, in Little House on the Prairie, and other famous books in that series. Laura, her big sister Mary, and Ma and Pa have many adventures living on the edge of the wilderness. Another classic is by Mildred D. Taylor, called Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. It's about a black farming family in the South and the hatred and brutality they must fight against. There's another classic story about a black farming family in the South called Sounder by William H. Armstrong. It's about the family's very hard life and the son's search for his father and their dog Sounder. The ending is sad, but also hopeful as David learns to read. Another famous dog story is about living in the wilderness. It's by Fred Gipson, called Old Yeller. It's all about two brothers, their mother, and their dog living in the wilderness in Texas. An American writer, E.B. White, wrote Charlotte's Web, a book about, this will sound strange, but it's a good story, the friendship between a spider and a pig. Robert C. O'Brien wrote one of our favorites, Mrs. Frisby and the Rats of Nihm. Mrs. Frisby is a mouse whose son will die of a sickness if he is moved. But they must move before their house is destroyed by the farmer's plow. So it's a big problem. Mrs. Frisby persuades some super intelligent rats to help. It's very exciting. Another of our favorites was by Walter Farley, called The Black Stallion. In this classic, a big black horse and a boy are shipwrecked together on an island. Later they come back home, and the horse, called the Black, becomes a great racehorse. Lynn Reid Banks wrote another story we enjoyed, The Indian in the Cupboard. This is about a boy with a magic cupboard, which turns things alive when they are put inside. Next, there are just a few mystery books, books about cleverly catching criminals. Donald J. Sobel wrote a long series about Encyclopedia Brown, who is super smart. Then there are the popular Hardy Boys books with Frank and Joe Hardy. After the Hardy Boys got started, a similar series for girls was added, Nancy Drew. That's all we have in Part 2, but click through to Part 3 for even more great books.